Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious about what this is or you've got a bit lost. You're all welcome. I'm Chatty, this is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, and I'm going to be chatting madly about what I've read over the winter season, and I will then be changing up my shelf for my spring season. This is my new way of doing things. I used to do monthlies, I'm now doing it seasonal because I think it's going to work better for me. So I'm going to be talking through the shelf that I made. So in a previous video, which I will link in the description, I set up my winter shelf using a variety of things such as a TBR tin of books I'm really excited for and books I'm scared of. So I'm going to go back and look at that shelf, talk you through whether or not I actually read them, if I read some other ones, give you my stats because I do love stats. Not going to be quite as in-depth as what I used to, just going to be giving you the basics without telling you which books amount to those stats. And then I'm going to read through a few and do a little wrap up on some of the books. And then I'm going to talk through what I might be starting to put on my spring TBR. And then in the following video, I will be once again setting up the seasonal spring shelf. Sort of editing future Chatty here. For those with the eyeballs, you're not going crazy. The continuity of this video is all over the shop. I have filmed this in dribs and drabs over different days, sometimes whilst I'm ill. Well done me, that was clever. At one point I lost my glasses and I couldn't find them. I'm not entirely sure how I am doing booktube at the moment. Trying to kind of slim it down to be doing less videos so it's more manageable has basically meant that I'm still talking loads, but I've just decided to make my one video into like a feature-length film. So I'm not sure how this is going to work. For those of you without the eyeballs, just pretend that I look entirely glamorous and the same throughout, and I'm sure it'll be fine. For those with the eyeballs, I have clearly chosen books over looks, and books are the key of this, and that's all hunky-dory. I do apologise for the state of this video. I don't quite know how I'm going to manage this going forward. I don't think this is it, but this is it for now. And either it's going to make it into one giant video or it's going to be in several parts, depending how easily VN is going to put it together and edit it, or if it's going to be too big for it. We'll find out together. Let's start off by going and looking at what the winter shelf looks like now. 4 Seasons of Bramley Hedge is a picture book that just lives on this shelf. The Light Struck is the second book in a YA fantasy duology by Sonia Myra. The first book was The Darkening that I read last year and wanted to continue. Unfortunately, I DNF'd this. I just wasn't connecting with it, and it's very sad because it's a beautiful Fairy Loot edition, but this is going. We have a middle grade duology here, which is The Midnight Treasure and Wolf Crown, which was a gift from my Madge Much Hair for Christmas, and I read both of these and had a brilliant time with them. And they're by Piers Torday. Principle of Moments, I'm still currently reading. This is a sci-fi space opera by Esme Jenkins Pearson. The Mapmakers by Tamsin Merchant and The Hatmakers. I read The Hatmakers but didn't get to The Mapmakers. Parrable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler was my intimidating book, and I read it. Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo was one of my reread books that I didn't get to. And Sweet Bean Paste by Jurian Sukegawa I also didn't get to as my reread. The Giver as a YA quartet bind-up. I did read this YA dystopia, and I also read the second book, Gathering Blue, and really enjoyed them both. The basket is new, so I could fit more books on here. Just move the book light. Jingo by Terry Pratchett is one of the watch books, and this was one of my rereads, and I had a wonderful time. Very topical, hilarious, love it as much as ever. Saving Neverland by Abby Elphinstone, a middle grade fantasy, is a book that I read for Middle Grade Madness Challenge, and I need to return to my mum. Yesterday Crumb and the Storm in the Teacup by Andy Sagar is a book I've got out the library and haven't yet read. It's a middle grade. The Night I Borrowed Time by Iqbal Hussain, a middle grade sci-fi I bought myself and have read. Twin Crowns was from the hyped books that I got at the TBR jar, and it just wasn't its time. I think I was just not in the YA fantasy mood. Closest Thing to Flying by Jill Lewis was a middle grade I meant to read for middle grade March and haven't got round to. And The Temptation of Magic by Megan Scott was one of the intimidating books on the TBR jar. Again, YA fantasy, I just wasn't in the mood. I think I was YA fantasied out, so didn't try it. And finally, we have The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, which I have borrowed from a friend and still haven't read. The difference between this and the original Winter Shelf is Gender, a graphic guide by Meg, John Barkham and Jules Scheel, which is a non-fiction illustrated novel I did read, and The Sovereign by C.L. Clarke, the third book in their epic fantasy, which I also did read. 10 books read and attempted, 7 not, and 1 currently reading. Okay, got a lot of stats. So since we last chatted, I have read 25 books and DNF'd 1 book. So out of those books, there were 9 adult books, 3 YA books, and 13 middle grade books. I read 3 rereads, which I'm very happy with, and 22 books were new to me. I have a nice mixture of format. So I had 3 audiobooks, 2 novels in verse, 18 novels, 1 graphic novel, and 1 ebook. And then looking at where the books came from, this one's not kind of so good for my personal goals. So only 13 of the books were mine. 3 of the books I borrowed from other people, and I got 9 of them from the library. So I've kind of overdone the library. Oh, and I included the DNF in that stat list. Overdone the library, which is not great when I'm trying to read more books from my shelves, but had a great reading month, can't complain. So of the books that were mine, 3 of the books were new, as in since the beginning of the year when I counted all my books that I own. So what I've hauled this year, like, and bought, not just ones that I've got out from under my drawer, 3 are new that I've read. 9 are from my shelves, TBR, and 2 were rereads of that. Hold on. I was trying to work out, how did I have 3 rereads but only 2 rereads? I borrowed 1 from my mum. Okay, great. So 2 were rereads from my shelves and 9 were books that were on my shelves pre the beginning of the year. So one of the things that I'm looking at this year is, I didn't like, you didn't know about this because I never made the video, but I didn't like when I went through my stats of last year that my ratio of how many books that I bought into my house compared to how many books I read off my shelves was higher than what I was reading off my shelves. And like that. So I am really trying. I want to have at least a 25% difference between the books from my shelves and books that I've hauled in. I want to be reading more from my shelves than what I'm hauling into my house because it feels better for me. You all have your own what feels good for you. This is what feels good for me. At the moment, that ratio stands of 11 books I read from my shelves, mixture of new and rereads. 15 books have come into my house that I previously did not have in my house before the start of the year. So we are seesawing the wrong way. I need to correct that. So that ain't good. Gonna work on it. Series. I have started 7 series, which was quite thrilling, but not great for my stats. I've progressed with 1, DNF'd 1, so that series has been taken out of the running, which is helpful, and I have finished 2 series. So this brings my current series. I've got 3 which are up to date, and very soon those numbers are going to go down because the new books are currently being released. And 15 books that I am currently working on. So the series are all fully out and I could finish them. I said between 10 and 15, so it's kind of okay, but it's edging towards the side where I don't want it to be. So gonna just hold on to that. So back when I was doing a full breakdown of my series, I did a little point system and I'm currently on -6 points. So not looking positive in terms of like how I'm doing with working on my series, but I'm having fun. So we'll worry about that later. In terms of genres, this looks very different to the stats that my story graph gives me, because story graph puts random genres in there, like age categories, and will class one book as a genre, but not another book. So I've read 2 novels in verse. One is counted as poetry, the other isn't, which is quite interesting. So it's interesting. I like the graph, I like looking at it, but I think my genres are more accurate. So my genres, which I don't have a graph for, are that I have read 9 fantasy books. What a surprise, it's my highest genre. And then 3 dystopia, very exciting because I had 0 last year. 3 contemporary, slightly down from what I'd expect from me. And 3 non-fiction, which is a lot higher from what I'd expect from me. 2 magical realism, 1 sci-fi, 1 romance, 1 historical, 1 mystery. So I'm happy with that range of genres. Looking at, am I reading books from global majority authors compared to white Eurocentric authors? My aim is to have half and half. I can tell you now that I'm not winning at this one. So for global majority authors, I read 8 books, and for West Eurocentric authors, I have read 17. Sorry, white Eurocentric authors, not West. I've read 17. So I am under a third. Under a third of global majority author, so it's not good. So I definitely want to keep being aware of it and trying to deal with that. In terms of reading diversely, again, could be better. I've read 5 books by Black authors, 3 books by Asian authors, 4 books with a protagonist that was a physical disability, 2 with mental health, 2 with LGBTQ+, and 1 with trans. And no neurodivergent representation, no Latinx, and no Indigenous representation. So I'm going to keep working on it. I like to be aware of these things. I'm just going to keep working on them. The other thing that I'm wanting to do is I've set myself goals, again, you don't know because I never made the video, of trying to read a certain percentage of my hauls throughout the year. So I've been tracking what books I've hauled because I'm fun like that. So I have data from 2021 onwards. So 2021 to 2025, I want to read 3 of those years, 25% of the hauls. And 2 of them 20%. Those are my aims. I feel that's realistic. I haven't decided which ones, and that I don't need to. And I'd like to read 50% of what I haul this year. Now, this includes things that I bring out from under my bed and give to myself, as well as ones that come new in. So far, 2021, I've read 25% of it. Winner! I could just leave it there, but I'm not, because the Giver Quartet is in that and I want to continue reading. 2022, I've read 3.7%, need to work. 2023, I've read 10%, that's acceptable. 2024, 0, need to work on that one. 2025, 7.6, again, want to up that. 2026, I have read 22.7%. So I want to keep going with that one, obviously, and that's the one that can fluctuate. So we'll see how we get on. So that's all the stats for now. I am going to talk about how I'm doing with my 6 plans for 2026, which I do have a video on. So I'm now going to wrap up some of these books for you. Out of all those books I have read, I'm only going to give you a wrap up of 8 of them, or we'd be here all day. So I have chosen a selection of books that I really, really want to talk about. And some of them I kind of opened up to what would you like to hear about as well. So thank you for responding to that. I'm going to start off with the 2 that I said I was currently reading when I last did my setting up my winter shelf. So I'm going to start off with those and then move on to some other ones. The first of those books is a YA fantasy mystery romance, which is The 7 Faceless Saints by M.K. Lobb. And the spine is really cool. It looks kind of very like cathedral-y. This is definitely inspired by sort of the Italian Renaissance aesthetic. This is a buddy read that I had with Vadania from Vadania Silverscribe and Chloe from Phantom of the Pages. We are still trying to buddy read all of our fairy loot books. This was one that none of us were reaching for. Like, it wasn't calling to any of us. For me personally, I thought I'm more likely to feel irritated by this book than have an enjoyment from it, because I knew the premise was about a boy and a girl who had a romantic attachment in their mid-teens, and then in their early 20s they're on different paths. There's like unfinished business kind of between the two of them. And I just thought, oh, that's going to annoy me, because I just sometimes find when you've got love stories where they started previously, you get a lot of like flashbacks, but it still kind of doesn't really give you anything. It's like we already know they're supposed to be in love, and it doesn't kind of give you anything more. I was intrigued by the world and the mystery, so I was hoping that was going to be really strong to kind of pull me over the other stuff. I'm very pleased to say that I was wrong. The majority of this book I really loved, and I think M.K. Lobb did an excellent job of creating this world, giving us these characters, giving us these pasts that conflicts with the present, and there is reasons for these two characters to feel uncomfortable with each other, for them to have guilt, for them to have unfinished business, and it worked really, really well. Unfortunately, the ending takes the book into a territory that I was not as interested in. What I really loved was this kind of conflict between these two characters and this difficulty with the way they feel about the status quo of the world. So this setup is you have 7 saints, but one of them, Chaos, has at the very beginning, you have this prologue about Chaos is fall from grace. That statue has been wiped out. All followers of Chaos have been wiped out, and they don't talk about Chaos anymore, a bit like Bruno. And the other 6 saints still have the revere and love of the people, and one like leader from each of those 6 sects, for want of a better word. It makes a council, and then there's like an overall leader of that, and that's the power structure. Each of the saints have different skills and different kind of like handicrafts that they kind of use towards the good of the people. At the same time, there is an ongoing war with another country, and there is just general conscriptions from everyone that is not an acolyte to a saint. This is not a choice. You basically get gifted a magical gift. Like, it's shown, it's proved when you're at 13 that you have this power. So you then become part of that saint's sect. You're an acolyte and can carry on helping with the good of the Republic, or whatever it's called. I can't remember all the terminology. I read this very early on. So we have Roz, who grew up within these normal households. Her father was posted out to the front, and her childhood sweetheart, neither of them got saint's powers when they went to be tested, and she was very angry about the status quo of those in power, basically bossing those without. Damien gets sent to the front, and she doesn't, because she suddenly develops a saint's power. She is one of the acolytes of patience. The power developed late, and she gets sent off to the citadels. In the meantime, her father is executed for being a traitor. And during this time, during this separation, they don't write to each other. They don't have any communication with each other. It's like it's all disappeared. And Damien's father, he's an acolyte of the Saint of Strength, and war is their area. He calls Damien back from the front after he's shown valour in a battle, and he is part of the city guard, and he's kind of like a high up person within that. So this is the present day of where we meet those two, and there's been no communication. They're still very separated, still got very different things. Roz has a very big chip on her shoulder because she sees Damien as someone who abandoned her, didn't speak to her when her father was killed. It was by his father's order, and he's now basically being a little lapdog to those powers that be. Even though she is part of that system, she doesn't agree with it. Damien is full of guilt for various different things that he's done on the battlefield, and that he feels he can't look at Roz because of being complicit in the execution of her father. And he's like, how would I talk to her again? What would I say? And now she's this person that's like above me. So they've both got a lot of, not even miscommunication, there's just been zero communication. So they've got all these emotions and kind of feelings, but obviously there's still attraction between each other. So you've kind of got all of that going on. At the same time, there is a murdered chief. So one of the representatives for one of the saints is found dead. And there has also been some murders of just, you know, the regular people found dead. Possibly similarities, but they're only exploring the person that's connected to a saint. So then this takes on this murder mystery, and Roz and Damien end up kind of teaming up to solve this murder and resolving or not resolving the past between them. And what I really loved was, one, I loved I loved working out what it was about the saints, like their different powers, the different structures in there. The way the murder was set was really intriguing. It was very much some kind of like cult death. And that was really fascinating. You've also got this like pretty rotten political system going on. Everything seems a bit shifty. Like, why are they not investigating, apart from the fact that they just don't care about poor people? Why are they not investigating the regular people? But Damien is also like given specific instructions about what to do, and he's like, oh, I'm not sure about these, and he's talking to his dad, and his dad's like, yo, just toe the line, boy. And Damien's like, okay, Dad, I want to please you, but also I don't agree. And then Roz is like, why are you listening to your dad? So there's all this kind of stuff going on, which was really, really fun. Really, really fun. I really enjoyed all of that. And the more it continues, the more you find out about different feelings, different things they're doing, more kind of secrets, more miscommunication. But the key point is, it's really understandable from what you know about their characters and what's at stake for them. And I just really loved it. I couldn't read it fast enough. I was eating it up. It was just really fun. I loved all the bits about the mystery. We found more bodies. We found more information that kind of been redacted about these bodies. There's definitely this feeling of cover-up going on. But unfortunately, towards the end, like the cover-up aspect, which is what was really exciting for me, was kind of like thrown to the side, and we just focused on the villain and kind of the god aspect, but it was like out in the open. And then it felt very much that we're kind of going down the actual saints' powers and kind of the deities themselves playing their own little war games, which was hinted at. But what fascinated me the most was this cover-up aspect, this what was being hidden. And what I found a little bit annoying as well was just how the mystery was shown and resolved, and how characters kind of were involved in all of that. So it just felt like a little letdown at the end. But up until that point, it was so good. So I'm delighted by all of that. But unfortunately, it wasn't going in the direction I wanted it to. I'm now going to do spoilers. So if you are wanting to read Seven Faceless Saints and don't want to hear about the spoilers, then there are timestamps, so please skip ahead to when I'm talking about the next book. Okay, I'm presuming the rest of you here are happy for spoilers. So what really peed me off is the fact that Roz and Damien they didn't solve the mystery. It was basically handed to them on a plate. Even though they discover the supposed leader's corpse. And instead of going with the truth, he's been murdered, there's an imposter pulling the strings. And the only saints who have acolytes who can do like body shape-shifting type of stuff is Chaos. They kind of went with Chaos planted the illusion of the dead person instead, which makes no sense. So I'm like, why did you not clock? You knew, but you were trying to hold on to something. It didn't make sense. It's like, no, you know that the person in charge is an imposter and you need to hunt them down. And I really wanted them to have discovered this, and to be certain people in the know, and them to be this bringing down of this system, this need to bring down this system, and for some people to be aware of cover-up, some people to not be, and for them to have solved the murder. But unfortunately, the person in power has got away with it. And then the second book to be about them bringing down this system. Unfortunately, everyone knows that there's an imposter in power. It's an agent of Chaos. Chaos is back. Uh-oh, everyone. And it was just basically revealed. It was like, it was, ha 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 ha, this was my plan all along. And they're like, no, why? Huh? What? And then we went melodramatic on the Damien and Roz storyline and sort of sacrificing themselves and all of this. And I was like, oh no, I just kind of liked it when you had, you know, regular difficulties and you were kind of putting them aside and coming together and overcoming their feelings of betrayal and actually talking to each other and coming past, you know, the history and the dad problems and all of that, rather than the melodramatic stuff and saints and channeling saints' powers. I was like, oh, I didn't want it to go there. I didn't want it to go there. So the political facade has been ripped open. It's all a bit chaos. And then we're going to have, there's going to be some kind of battle between Chaos and someone else, possibly Patience, I don't know. And it's going to be like God's controlling their puppets. And it's going to be like that focus rather than like, what was their magic to begin with? Like, I loved the stuff where it was the eyes of the victims were removed and these black marbles were put in their place instead, because one of the saints' powers is to recall the last moments. The death saints was to recall the last moments of the dead from their eyes. So they were taken away, so that couldn't happen. And these particular things, I can't remember how it was now, but they were linked to Chaos. So all of that was just so fascinating. And then that's not the bit that was kept. We've just kind of gone off. So it just didn't do what I wanted to do, unfortunately. But so much of this I found really fun and I really loved. I definitely want to read more by M.K. Lobb, but I'm not going to be continuing with this duology because I know I'm not going to enjoy it, because it's not going to give me what I want. And I'm not here for, I enjoyed the relationship that we have. I'm not here for, you know, Damien and Roz being changed by the saints within them and trying to work out who they are. Like, I don't care about that. I'm sorry. It's going to annoy me. So, mixed bag eventually with this one. I'm pleased I read it. I'm not going to keep it. I had a great time while I was reading it, unfortunately for the end. And there we go. We're moving on. Now, the next book was one that I was expecting to love, and I did. And this is The Hatmakers by Tamsin Merchant, which is the first book in the Hatmakers series, which is a middle grade fantasy. I have heard amazing things, chiefly from Vadania, about how brilliant this book is. And I've had it on my shelf for a very overly long time. But it was waiting for that perfect moment when I was going to pick it up and just really, really enjoy it. And I really did. This is about Cordelia, who is the daughter of the family that make hats. They are the Hatmakers. And within the London town, there are other, I can't remember their official names, but like makers of gloves and boots. And they make lots of these and sell them for people to help them. They're not just hats. They can also change your emotions and keep you, it could be a hat of calmness should you need to feel more calm. It could be a hat of delight and gaiety should you wish to dance and prance around. Those type of things. Cordelia is an apprentice. She is learning the craft of hat making, but she sometimes just can't help herself from just wanting to give it a go. She feels they're just being a little bit reluctant and not trusting her innate skills. Cordelia's father is out on ships searching for specific ingredients to make the hats, like certain feathers and things from different lands. And they get some news about the ship sinking. And Cordelia does not feel that this is possible because that's a very silly mishap for a well-trained sailor to make. So she is suspicious and optimistic. We also find a little bit more about the main purpose of the guilds of different clothes makers, in that when they are called upon, they must make particular clothes for the ruler of the land so that they can have the clothes that are going to help them govern the best and achieve great diplomacy. And there is a diplomatic meeting coming up and they need the clothes to make sure they can create a peace treaty so the lands do not go to war. Unfortunately, rather than working together, all of the different makers have deep-seated rivalry and believe that their particular item of clothing is the best and do not trust each other at all. There is also further shenanigans afoot. There is thievery going missing. There is a lot of suspicion going on, and it all comes to a head at a certain point in the book. And obviously it's going to be up to Cordelia to save the day. We also get a huge amount of whimsy as well. The house is very much a sentient house, and there are certain things that it will do and support and help the occupiers and owners of the house with, which is a lot of fun. Cordelia's a brilliant main character. She's got that kind of plucky optimism of children, a certain amount of ruthlessness that she tries to, a sense of adventure that maybe as an adult is a bit reckless, but definitely fun for an adventure book. I had a wonderful time with this book. It kept that level of whimsy, it kept that level of adventure and that fun throughout, and I can't wait to keep reading. We also have the wonderful Paulo Escobar doing these illustrations. So as well as the cover jacket we have got, and now I'm flicking through, I can't find one, illustration. So we have here a beautiful picture of the Hatmakers with the hats all on their little stands, making away. There's sort of like lots of different kind of potions and things within this cabinet. And all of the different members of the family have their different skill sets, and there is also a little bit of history of the hat makers and their trade as well, and it is delightful. Exactly what I want from my middle grade fantasy. The next book was one of the books that was part of my intimidating books that I got from my TBR Tim, and that is The Parrable of the Sower. This is by Octavia E. Butler, and it is the first book in the, is it Earthseed duology? I think it is. One of the reasons I was intimidated by this was because it's Octavia E. Butler, and I really want to love her books. I want to read everything she's written and finish with Kindred because I hear so many good things. But I was worried that maybe it wouldn't be for me and I wouldn't like them, and that would make me really sad. And also I know it's going to be heavy. I know the subject matter is going to be really, really heavy. But I started reading it. Excellent dystopia. The writing style worked so well for me. It just pulls me in. There's moments when it's just really raw, moments when it's poetical, but it's full of living and breathing people. And you feel their fears with them. You feel their hope with them. And that's amazing. I was also reading this during a lot of terrible stuff happening in the news. I am so privileged to be living in a place that is safe for me. I know it's not safe for everyone, and that really sucks. I'm very much reading it from a place of safety, but looking around at the world and seeing how unsafe everyone else is, the atrocities that are going on out there, and it just feels that the events happening in this are real for many people, and that's horrible. It's really horrific to see and feel helpless about it, and to not do anything beyond acknowledge that you can see the suffering that's happening and pray about it. And what this book did, like, that could have made me feel not able to read this, but actually this book gave me hope from reading about the resilience of humanity and the ability to forge friendships, to find forgiveness, to find even when you are fighting for survival, to be vulnerable, to trust other people. That was really moving and powerful in here. It is still very heavy. There is a lot of very difficult stuff to read in here, so I definitely recommend. I put all Storygraph links in my videos, so click on those. Storygraph gives trigger warnings, so if you don't feel this is the right thing for you to read at this point, please read them and check. but amongst the horror there is hope, and there is light, and there is love within here. And it's got some excellent explorations about community, humanity, religion, survival, like who we are, what we do. And I just thought the book was really brilliantly put together, and I cannot wait to read the sequel when I'm in the right headspace. Need to be in the right headspace. Next, I want to talk to you about another middle grade that I have had my eye on for a while. And then when I went into Waterstones with my kids, this was the Waterstones book of the month, and they had their whole range and were like, if you buy one of these, you get a free coffee. And I'm like, well, I think the university decided I definitely need to pick it up. And that is The Night I Borrowed Time by Iqbal Hussein. This is a middle grade sci-fi, and it was published this year. So I wanted to read it. The cover in itself just looks really like it's going to pull you in. I love books about time travel. And the premise of this just sounded really, really interesting. So I was picking it up thinking this is possibly going to be a contender for the Mid-Grade Reader's Choice Awards. I was hoping it might be a contender for the Children's Booker, but it's not contemporary. It's a sci-fi, so probably not, but I still think it should be. I loved this. I absolutely loved this. So in this story, you are following Zubair, who lives with his parents and his 6 older brothers who are sextuplets. So that's quite a lot to be the younger brother in that situation. You've got a wonderful look into their family life, family history, and there is a rocky patch between his parents. And you get these 2 very different characters of his mum and his dad. You get a brilliant kind of look into what it's like growing up in a Pakistani family in Britain, and just seeing different life goals not quite happening for his parents, and all of those kind of mixture of things. You get to meet his grandma, who is a wonderful character. Everyone always loves a grandma character, and this grandma is wonderful. Through Zubair being the 7th son, he's got the ability to time travel, and he stumbles across this using his Nana's prayer mat. And it's just really fascinating as he gets to grips with that, as he starts exploring what happens if he tries to change certain things. And things unravel, and you have this wonderful exploration of what the future looks like if you've changed something small. I love all of that. This very much had its own kind of time travel rules in it, and I really enjoyed that. Seemed very solid, and I really enjoyed how that worked. I love the religious link in this as well, and he does eventually go far enough back in time to a very difficult part of history, looking at the partition of India, making a separate Pakistan and India, and seeing some of his family history in that way. There is a lot of humour in here, there is a lot of heartbreak, there is a lot of love and love for your family, and just a growing appreciation between the people that your parents are and who your grandparents are, and lots of those different things. And I thought there was a certain amount of realism within this book, as well as hope. And I thought that the author has done an absolutely fantastic job with this story, and I really hope that he writes more middle grade, because I absolutely adored this book. He has written books for adults, which I have now got on my wish list. I'm going to read one of the quotes from the back, because I think I can't put it better myself. So Rashmi Shapandi says, "This book will break your heart and make it soar. A triumph." Definitely.
Thanks for watching part 1. Please continue with part 2. Feel free to have a wee and a cup of tea before you start.